Sleep is the greatest legal performance enhancing drug that most people are probably neglecting. This is a quote from Matthew Walker and beautifully represents the topic of this video. Sleep, as we know, is one of the greatest things you can do for muscle growth and one of our basic human needs. Yet most people suck at it, including you. Right now, you probably have very little consistency for the times you go to bed, you probably lack sleep every night, and you likely do all the wrong things you could possibly make, which are all contributing to less gains. In this video, I'm going to fix you up. I'm going to share with you a framework that I use to get more than 95% sleep quality almost every single night, which helped me build muscle much more easily. And yes, it is much more than just going to bed and waking up at the same time. So if you can absorb what we're about to cover and really lock in, your sleep will never be the same. That's my promise to you. So put this video on full screen and focus. So first, we need to discuss the idea of our circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms are the physical, mental, and behavioral changes that an organism experiences over a 24-hour cycle. Circadian rhythms are a lot more than just going to bed and waking up at the same time. They regulate based on our sleeping patterns, hormone release, appetite, digestion, temperature, light, and many more things. Circadian rhythms are present in most living organisms on this planet: plants, animals, microorganisms, and so on. In humans, almost every tissue and organ has its own circadian rhythm, and collectively they are tuned into the daily cycle of day and night. Now, all of our circadian rhythms are governed by a single system in our body, and that system, which regulates our innate sense of time and controls all of our circadian rhythms, is called our biological clock. In humans, that clock is located inside the brain, and it is composed of proteins encoded by thousands of genes that switch on and off in a specific order. That master clock coordinates all the biological clocks in an organism. Now, these are all things that you don't need to be aware of. They're just interesting facts, I would say. All you essentially need to remember is the fact that our circadian rhythms are responsible for hormone release at certain times throughout the day. These include our hunger hormones, sleep hormones, wake-up hormones, etc. And in order for us to maximize our sleeping patterns, it's more than just going to bed and waking up at the same time each day. It's about having a proper morning routine that spikes a natural cortisol spike in our body, a proper evening routine that spikes a healthy dose of melatonin in our body, a regular daily routine that is predictable and routinized, same eating times, same training times, same work times, same relaxing times, and so on. If you want to optimize your sleep so you can optimize the rate at which you build muscle, you'll need to optimize your circadian rhythms. And to optimize those, you'll need to live a predictable and routinized life. You can imagine your biological clock like a project manager in your brain. Every time you fall asleep, eat, train, work, wake up, etc., that manager is creating a plan for when he needs to release which hormones. But if every day you're changing things up, that manager will never know when to send melatonin, cortisol, testosterone, growth hormone, and so on. And he'll never be able to create a proper plan. So throughout the rest of this video, I'll focus mainly on helping you create a predictable life, giving you the exact morning routine I used and why I specifically did these things, how you can optimize your daily life to optimize your biological clock, and the exact evening routine I used, and again, also why I specifically did these things. So the actual first thing I want to cover is the idea of creating predictability in your own life. As I spoke about right before, to optimize our circadian rhythms, we need to give it predictable and routinized behavior. So there's a few things you'll need to routinize. The first is sleeping patterns. This one is very obvious and the one that most people are aware of. The times at which your brain is used to wake up and fall asleep is the biggest factor responsible for releasing cortisol in the morning, melatonin in the evening, and regulating your biological clock. The second thing is eating patterns. We have two hormones called ghrelin and leptin. Ghrelin is responsible for making you feel hungry, and leptin is responsible for making you feel full. When we eat at similar times each day, our circadian rhythms know at which times to release these hormones and therefore giving it a sense of predictability. The third thing is training schedule. During the time we train, our body will release testosterone, growth hormone, IGF-1, and so on. And once more, by training at the same time each day and having that regular routine, your circadian rhythms know when they need to release these hormones. The fourth thing is work/school schedule. Again, our body will release hormones throughout the time we work or study, and by having a predictable work schedule, our circadian rhythms know when they need to release these hormones. Now, for many of you, you'll have a stable school or work schedule, and in that case, you don't need to worry about this. But if you're self-employed, you can choose whenever you work, and in that case, you want to try and create a work schedule that is very similar each day. Now, the fifth and last thing is social schedule. Each and every day, you should have a time where you wind down, socialize, and relax. As I talked about in my last video, if you want to consistently stay disciplined throughout the following months or years, now those times should be consistent every day. Every evening, you could have an hour where you read or spend time with your family. Every evening, you could have an hour where you play some games with friends. The point is that that schedule should be approximately around the same time every day. Now, there will be a few other things that are responsible for regulating the cycle, but those are the main ones. Have predictable sleeping patterns, eating patterns, training schedule, work or school schedule, and social or relaxing schedule. What you now need to do, and this is very important, is to set those variables up in a way that is sustainable for you. I don't want you to set these variables up in a way that won't be maintainable for you in the long run and delude yourself into thinking that you'll actually be able to maintain it. We've all done it, and we all end up relapsing and going back to our old lifestyle. So even if you set them up in a way where it seems like you won't make much progress, it's still better than going all in and stopping after a while. Now, next we'll cover how you can optimize your morning and evening routine so you can optimize the hormones released at those times. So in order for us to optimize our morning routine, we first need to understand the purpose of it. Morning routines, just like evening routines, have a purpose. They're done for a reason. There's two main reasons why we engage in specific behaviors in the morning. The first is cortisol release. Many people, maybe you as well, view cortisol as a bad hormone, one which we must avoid at all costs. But in some cases, cortisol is good, healthy, and necessary. As we wake up, our body releases a natural cortisol spike designed to wake us up, which is why we need to do things that will optimize that cortisol release. The second thing is body temperature increase. This might seem like an odd one, but an increase in body heat is similar to our body as a wake-up signal. At night, our body needs to cool down in order to fall asleep, which is why it's often so hard to fall asleep throughout the summer, and in the morning, our body needs to warm up in order to wake up. So cortisol release and an increase in body temperature are the two main things we're trying to achieve in the morning to help us wake up. You don't need coffee, you just need a proper routine. So the few things we can do to optimize both variables are to first hydrate. As we wake up, our body hasn't been hydrated for a good 8, 9 or 10 hours. So the first thing anyone should do is drink at least 0.5 to 1 liter of water first thing in the morning. For many of you, this will be too much because you're not used to it. So the way to slowly increase your intake over time is to drink till failure. This means drinking whatever amount you can and slowly increasing that over time. Then with drinking water, you ideally also want to have electrolytes, so have a pinch of salt and you will be well hydrated. The second thing is sunlight. This idea has been made popular by Andrew Huberman, who you probably know, and what it essentially does is help release that natural cortisol spike in your body. So try to aim for at least 10 minutes of sunlight on your eyes. Obviously don't look directly at the sun, and if you don't have access to sunlight, bright lights will be good as well. Now the third thing is creating movement. This will help us with both variables, a cortisol spike and an increase in body heat. Now movement can be really anything. It can be as simple as walking or as psychotic as running first thing in the morning. It's really your choice. The point is to get your body moving. I like walking outside because it combines movement and sunlight, so it's like killing two birds with one stone. Now the fourth thing and last thing is cold exposure. Now I'm sure many of you instantly thought nope, but I'll tell you this is not a necessity. It just helps if you do. What this does is definitely increase your cortisol, but it also increases your body temperature. When you expose your body to cold, your body will go against that cold by heating up your internal temperature, which is why cold exposure is actually a good thing. Now this can be, again, as psychopathic as an ice bath for example, or as simple as a walk in cold weather. So this wraps up the main things you can do to optimize your circadian rhythms through a morning routine. Hydrate, view sunlight, create movement, and expose yourself to cold. The following thing we'll cover is the actual night routine. Now, just like a morning routine, an evening routine has a purpose. In this case, there's three main reasons why we engage in specific behaviors in the evening. So the first thing is melatonin release. The main function of melatonin is making us feel sleepy and allowing our body and mind to become unconscious for 8 hours. One of the goals of an evening routine is maximizing our natural melatonin release in the evening so our body can fall asleep faster and more effectively. The second thing is body temperature decrease. Opposite to the morning, our body requires a decrease of 2 degrees Fahrenheit to be able to fall asleep. This is again why it's often a lot harder to fall asleep during the summer when external temperatures are a lot higher. And then the third thing is mental and physical relaxation. If our mind is racing and our body is stressed, we won't be able to fall into sleeping mode. Stress is also known as cortisol, and cortisol is ideal to wake you up, not help you fall asleep. If our mind and body can't relax, we can't fall asleep. So that is the third thing. So these are the three main goals we're trying to achieve. Melatonin release, a decrease in body temperature, and mental and physical relaxation. Now before we move on to the routine, there's a few prerequisites we need to take care of. Many of those are known by most people, but I think they're worth repeating. So the first thing is sound. External sounds need to be completely shut out, and I think that makes a lot of sense. We don't want to have too many external sounds perturbing our ability to fall asleep at night. If there's people talking, music being played, or cars passing by, you'll have a harder time falling asleep than if these things weren't there. The second thing is temperature. As I've mentioned a couple times already, warm temperatures tend to make it harder for us to fall asleep, so we need to make sure our environment stays cool enough. A room temperature of about 18 to 19 degrees Celsius seems to be optimal for falling asleep, so that's the range you should try to aim for. The third thing is caffeine. We're all aware that we need to avoid caffeine about 6 to 7 hours before bed, and the main reason isn't because it makes us more awake, but rather because it makes us not tired. We have a hormone called adenosine, which has the function of making us feel sleepy, and what caffeine does is bind to the receptors that adenosine would bind to, so that adenosine can't bind to it anymore. Caffeine essentially just blocks our ability to feel tired for a couple hours. The fourth thing is food. We've all heard that we shouldn't eat too close to our bedtime. Last meal should be around 2 to 3 hours before bed, and the main reason is because our body has a limited amount of energy, and when your body has to fall asleep and digest food, your body has to make a choice for where it will allocate its energy. Either it will repair your body or it will digest food. So if your body has food to digest, it won't be able to repair your body as well. Now the fifth and final thing is lights. Some lights act as a tool to wake us up, which is why people often tell others to avoid blue lights before bed. The thing with lights is that there's a couple nuances. First of all, lights coming from above our eyes aren't the same thing as lights coming from below our eyes. The reason is because the position of a light will activate different neurons in our eyes, either promoting wakefulness or sleepiness. Lights coming from above tend to wake us up, and lights coming from below don't have that wakeful effect. And the reason for that is most likely because lights coming from above mimic sunlight, which represents daylight, and lights coming from below represents a fire, for example, which is indicative of nighttime. The type of light also matters. Brighter lights have a much stronger wakeful effect than red lights. Red lights are the lowest on the light spectrum, meaning they have the least wakeful effect on the body. Any lights that have a warmer tone to it will be more optimal for nighttime. So remember to not have lights that are too bright, not have any lights that have a cooler tone to it, and not have any lights that come from above your eyes. So these are the 5 main things that need to be taken care of before actually starting. External sounds, temperature, caffeine, food, and lights. So now that we actually understand why an evening routine matters and what the prerequisites are, we can actually move on to the behaviors themselves. So there's 4 steps to this. The first is warm exposure. Contrary to cold exposure, warm exposure, so a warm shower or warm bath, cools your body down, which is ideal for falling asleep. This is again due to the fact that our body tries to maintain equilibrium. So if it's exposed to cold external stimuli, it will start to warm up and it will start to cool down with warm external stimuli. Warm exposure can then help with another variable as well. One of the benefits of warm exposure is that it tends to physically and mentally relax us. Warm showers feel nice, they feel very pleasant, which then helps us fall asleep better and more quickly. The second thing is stretching. When you're done with warm exposure, your internal temperature might be cooling down, but your muscles are still warm, so it's an excellent time to start stretching. The benefits of stretching are very similar to the last benefits of warm exposure, which is that it physically and mentally relaxes you. We often keep a lot of stress in our muscles from the day. We get tensed up, we have a hard time relaxing, so one of the ways to physically relax and release the stress we hold in our body is by stretching that stress out of it. I know I probably sound like strange hippie, but trust me, it works. Stretching can then also help with the body's nighttime metabolic cleaning process, which is very important during sleep and is a bonus on top. The point here is to not do a full stretching routine. If you do some back and leg stretches for 1 to 3 minutes, that should be enough. Now the third thing is meditation. This one is very focused on mentally relaxing you. It's about removing racing thoughts from your brain, calming it down and allowing it to relax and fall asleep. Now there's a specific way we want to meditate. Generally, what I like to do is lay down on my bed, under my sheets, and meditate in that position. Then there's about 2 ways people go about it. Either they slowly breathe through their nose and focus on letting their body sink into the mattress, or they slowly breathe through their nose whilst focusing on every muscle group relax individually. Either way is good, so find the way that works best for you. Meditation can then also relax you physically. If I meditate for long enough, let's say 7 to 10 minutes, my body starts to feel sleepy and just wants to lay down. Then the fourth and final thing is mind-calming behaviors. This is more of a combination of different actions that I put into one group because they all have the same purpose, calming your mind down. So the first thing is to plan out anything you'll have to do the next day on a piece of paper or notepad. This allows us to finish today's day of work and let our minds quiet down. This way we won't be thinking about everything we need to do the next morning. We can just relax knowing that everything is already planned. The second thing is preparing your clothes for the next day. This is very similar to the first tip, where preparing your clothes for the next day already removes one thing of your list of things to do in the morning. Everything is ready. And the last tip I would give you would be to clean your room. Similar to the previous 2 ones, you're doing things early so your future self doesn't have to worry about them anymore. So this wraps up every single thing you need to be aware of to maximize your sleep so you can build muscle at a faster rate. So this is exactly how you can take advantage of the greatest recovery method ever made. Routinize your life, have a proper morning routine, and have a proper evening routine. So that's it for this video. What I want you to do is choose 2 to 3 of the things we've covered and implement them today or tomorrow so you actually gain something from this and you're not just consuming content. And if you're new to this channel, my goal here is to revolutionize fitness education by focusing way more on the consistency side of things. Although I'm still focused on actual fitness stuff like in this video, I'm way more interested in dealing with addictions, discipline, consistency, and going in depth on these topics. So if you believe that's a mission worth fighting for, you can subscribe to the channel down below. And if you feel like I'm not respecting the channel mission, you have my permission to call me out on it. So that being said, hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.